Molecular Foundry, which is one of 5 Department of Energy nanoscale science research centres housed here at Berkeley Lab. And my background is in computational science, so I'm a solid-state physicist by training, but I do simulations. And my project within EBI is called Exploring Battery Interfaces, trying to explore what happens at the interface between electrodes and electrolytes, how we can control that and improve battery technologies. My emphasis on using supercomputing facilities to try to understand complex problems in material science led me to the conclusion that there's a lot of insight that we can gain from having an atomic scale or molecular scale understanding of materials and how they function. In understanding battery technologies, that was one of the fundamental gaps that we had. We didn't understand how things behave at the molecular level inside a battery, even though battery technology has existed for more than 200 years. I've used those skills, the computational skills that I have and the theoretical understanding to try to explore and explain some of the complex experiments that are done on batteries to improve our understanding and intuition about how to change the things that we do from a chemistry or material science perspective to make better working battery systems. If you go back to the beginnings of nanoscience, it was all about making small objects down to the nanoscale, so around 100 nanometers or less, that had interesting new properties that behaved differently, that led to some of the advances we see in flat screen technology, like quantum dot displays. That kind of matured to a certain point where we became very expert in making small objects and then using them. I would say right now, nanoscience is in a region where we're realizing that devices composed of nanoscale objects are the key thing that we need to make. And understanding how to control all of the interfaces between those little tiny objects, how they connect together, and how they function together as a material system is one of the biggest challenges that we have. So it's really important to understand that when you put two materials together and form an interface, you don't just make that fine line between them, you make a kind of a volume, an interfacial volume, where the properties of both materials on either side are a little bit different. And that interfacial volume acts as a gateway. It controls how energy and matter and charge and things like that flow between one material and another. And in a battery, that's hugely important because that's the gateway that allows the charge to be stored or to be released when you want to use one of your battery devices. To the best of my knowledge, what EBI is trying to do is allowing researchers to do cutting-edge research with direct connection to who might ultimately be the benefactors of that research. And in that way, they're enabling both scientific and technological development at the cutting edge where it's needed. Particular areas. The one area that I'm interested in, advanced energy technologies for storage, is one of the more pressing issues that we have right now scientifically. And so I'm happy to see that they're willing to invest in that particular area. I think what's unique about it is it draws upon researchers from different groups around the country in a way that allows them to both explore independently their ideas, but also in collaboration, and then to bring them together periodically to discuss common ideas or ways in which they can work together to improve and find better solutions. That combination of both academic freedom and connection with industry is somewhat unique, and I think it allows us to push forward in a way that's both interesting scientifically, but also technologically relevant. We could see maybe more direct connections and the impact that we can make on society based on those connections. Generally speaking, if you want to have a sustainable activity, you have to think holistically about how it impacts all aspects of both the supply chain for the materials that you use, their utility and any consequences in terms of byproducts that are made in that process, and then the end of life. Most devices or technologies that we make, they don't last forever, and when they're done, we want to be able to reuse those materials again, particularly if they have high value. And so I think that kind of cyclic approach to sustainability, where there is no end of life for a given technology, that it is constantly reused and reconfigured in a way that might benefit the next technology or a reinvention of that technology. In our particular case, we can see a direct need for the technology we're developing, both for long-range transport, so trucking, and also for aviation. And so I think it has a the likelihood to lead to a product that might actually have a huge impact on some of the bigger polluting parts of our infrastructure. EBI is encouraging us as researchers to not only form partnerships with industry to do basic research, but also to commercialize our ideas. I think there's a huge advantage to that impetus that they give from the beginning to allow us to realize our ideas as technologies that can then go on the market.